They say the night has 1,000 eyes, the black-eyed children, they call them. Whispers of their existence drift through the darkest corners of the internet, chilling tales passed from one trembling voice to another. They appear at your doorstep, these children, shrouded in an unnatural darkness. Their eyes, two pools of absolute black, stare into your soul, stirring a primal fear you never knew you possessed. Some dismiss it as mere folklore, a modern-day boogeyman to frighten children and the weak-willed. But others, those who have seen the abyss staring back, know the chilling truth. They know the black-eyed children are real. Their encounters leave behind a lingering sense of dread, a bone-deep chill that whispers of unseen forces at play. To invite them in is to invite something sinister, something that chills the very marrow of your bones. The witching hour, 3 a.m., a time when the veil between worlds is at its thinnest, when logic sleeps and shadows dance. It is at this hour, they say, that the black-eyed children are most potent, their power amplified by the darkness that cloaks the world. Why 3 a.m.? Some believe it's the time when our defenses are at their weakest, our minds clouded by sleep. Others claim it's the hour of the dead, when spirits roam freely and the boundaries between life and death blur. Stories circulate online, whispered accounts of individuals foolish enough to tempt fate. They speak of strange occurrences, unexplainable events that begin to plague their lives after their 3 a.m. encounter. Electronics malfunction, shadows move in the corner of their eyes, and an unshakable feeling of being watched follows them like a curse. For those who seek the black-eyed children at 3 a.m., be prepared to face the consequences. The air crackled with anticipation, a mixture of excitement and trepidation. It was 2:55 a.m., and the flickering glow of the laptop screen illuminated the faces of the teenagers huddled around it. They had gathered tonight like moths to a flame, drawn by the allure of the forbidden. Tonight, they were going to summon the black-eyed children. Whispers of the challenge had been circulating online for weeks, each retelling adding to the legend, fueling their morbid curiosity. They had followed the instructions meticulously, their youthful bravado masking a growing unease deep within. A single candle flickered on the floor, casting long, dancing shadows on the walls. The air grew heavy, thick with an unseen pressure. The instructions were clear: knock 3 times on the nearest wooden surface, call out their name, and wait. Just when their resolve began to waver, they heard it. A soft, almost imperceptible tapping at the window. The teenagers froze, their blood turning to ice in their veins. The tapping came again, more insistent this time. Slowly, their eyes turned toward the window, their hearts pounding against their ribs like trapped birds. The curtains were drawn, but even the thin fabric couldn't completely conceal the darkness that seemed to cling to the other side. One of the teenagers, emboldened by a mixture of fear and morbid curiosity, slowly peeled back a corner of the curtain. The sight that greeted him sent a jolt of terror through his body, a primal scream stuck in his throat. 2 eyes, black as pitch, and filled with an ancient knowing malice, stared back at him. They were the eyes of a child, but there was nothing innocent about them. They were cold, calculating, devoid of any emotion that would mark them as human. The tapping stopped, replaced by a low, guttural voice that seemed to slither into their minds, bypassing their ears entirely. "Let us in," it whispered, the sound like nails scraping against a chalkboard. Fear, raw and primal, seized the teenagers. The voice, though soft, seemed to resonate deep within their bones, chilling them to their core. The eyes at the window held them captive, their gaze hypnotic and inescapable. One by one, their carefully constructed facades of bravado crumbled, revealing the terror that lurked beneath. They wanted to scream, to run, to do anything to escape the nightmare unfolding before their eyes. But their bodies refused to obey, paralyzed by an unseen force. The room seemed to grow colder, the air thick with a palpable sense of dread. The candle flame sputtered, casting grotesque shadows that danced menacingly on the walls. "Let us in," the voice repeated, its tone laced with an impatience that sent shivers down their spines. The hand on the window pressed harder, long, slender fingers wrapping around the frame as if testing its strength. The girl's question seemed to break the spell that held the teenagers captive. They scrambled back from the window, their movements clumsy and panicked. One of them, a boy with terror etched on his face, stumbled over his own feet and fell, his eyes never leaving the window. "Don't let them in! Don't let them in!" he screamed, his voice high-pitched and desperate. The others, their voices choked with fear, echoed his sentiment. They tried to barricade the door, their efforts hampered by adrenaline, and the growing certainty that their efforts were futile. The tapping at the window had stopped, replaced by a low, guttural growl that seemed to emanate from the very walls themselves. The room grew colder, the air thick with a palpable sense of malice. The candle flame flickered once more, then died, plunging the room into absolute darkness. Screams filled the air as the teenagers, consumed by terror, huddled together for whatever meager comfort they could find in each other's presence. The unseen force was palpable now, a suffocating presence that filled every corner of the room. The teenagers huddled together, their eyes wide with terror, as the darkness pressed in on them from all sides. They could feel its icy breath on their skin, smell its foul, sulfurous odor. Something brushed against one of the boy's legs, sending a fresh wave of terror through the group. He kicked out blindly, his foot connecting with something solid. A gasp escaped his lips, followed by a strangled cry. They could hear the scrape of something heavy being dragged across the floor, slow and deliberate. "We just want to talk," the voice whispered, closer now, right outside their circle. "You summoned us. Don't you want to know why we're here?" The teenagers shook their heads frantically, their bodies trembling uncontrollably. With a sickening lurch, the boy was pulled away from the group, his screams swallowed by the suffocating darkness. The remaining teenagers clung to each other, their eyes wide with terror, their minds teetering on the brink of madness. The laptop screen, their only source of light, flickered once and died, plunging them into absolute blackness. They were alone in the darkness with whatever had taken their friend, their senses heightened, every creak and groan of the house amplified tenfold. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the sound of their own ragged breathing. They waited, their bodies tense, their hearts pounding against their ribs like trapped birds. Minutes ticked by, each one an eternity. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, it stopped. The unseen force, the suffocating presence, was gone. Trembling, the remaining teenagers fumbled for their phones, their screens casting a faint, eerie glow in the oppressive darkness. Relief washed over them as they confirmed that it was just past 3 a.m. The witching hour had passed. Slowly, cautiously, they made their way to the front door, their eyes darting around the room, half expecting to see the black-eyed children watching them from the shadows. But the house was silent, the air thick with a lingering sense of dread. They stepped out into the pre-dawn light, the cool air a welcome relief from the stifling atmosphere inside. There was no sign of their friend, no trace of the horrors they had witnessed just moments before. It was as if the events of the past hour had been nothing more than a bad dream. But they knew better. They had seen the black-eyed children with their own eyes. The experience left an indelible mark on the teenagers. They tried to forget, to move on, but the memory of that night haunted their waking hours and invaded their dreams. The image of their friend being dragged screaming into the darkness, the chilling voice whispering promises of untold horrors, remained seared into their minds. They never spoke of the incident again, the shared trauma forming a silent bond between them. They avoided each other's eyes, each glance a painful reminder of the terror they had witnessed. Their lives, once filled with the carefree abandon of youth, were now tainted with a darkness they couldn't escape. The black-eyed children, it seemed, had claimed more than just their friend that night. They had claimed their innocence, their sense of security, their belief in the safety of the mundane. The world, once a place of wonder and possibility, now seemed fraught with unseen dangers, lurking just beyond the veil of reality. Their story serves as a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurks at the edges of our world, a warning to those foolish enough to tempt fate,